I'm about to tell you something that most marina operators don't want you to know. Something that boat brokers will never mention in their glossy brochures, and something that could put you at the helm of a vessel you never paid a dime for. What I discovered, sitting in a forgotten corner of a mid-sized marina, changed everything I thought I knew about boat ownership. And before this video ends, you're going to understand exactly how the system works, what the law actually says, and why there are more opportunities like this floating around than you'd ever imagine. But here's the catch. Most people walk right past these opportunities every single day without even knowing what they're looking at. They see an old boat covered in grime and mildew and think it's just another piece of junk waiting to be hauled away. They don't see what I see. They don't know what I know. And that's exactly why I'm here. Because what happened to me, what I'm about to share with you, it's not luck. It's not some sketchy loophole or maritime myth. It's a legitimate legal process that exists in every state with navigable waters. And yes, it can work for you too, if you know the rules, if you're willing to put in the work, and if you understand the one critical mistake that sinks most people who try this. I'll get to that mistake later, and trust me, you need to hear it. But first, let me take you back to where this all started. Because the moment I realized what I was looking at, everything changed. I'd been walking through the marina on a grey Tuesday afternoon. Nothing special, just checking out the usual spots, chatting with a few liveaboards, taking in the smell of salt and diesel that I've come to love over the years. And then I saw her. Tucked behind two larger sailboats, half hidden by a faded blue tarp that had seen better days, was a cruiser, maybe 32 feet. Hard to tell with all the growth on the hull and the layers of dust coating the deck. The lines were frayed, the canvas was torn, and there wasn't a soul in sight. Now, I've been around boats long enough to know the difference between a boat that's resting for the season and a boat that's been abandoned. This one had all the signs. No movement, no maintenance, no signs of life. But what really caught my attention was the slip number. I pulled out my phone and started doing what any curious sailor would do. I started digging. I asked around, checked with the dockmaster, looked up registration records. And what I found was a story I'd heard before, but never really paid attention to. The owner had stopped paying slip fees 2 years earlier, just vanished, left the boat sitting there like a piece of driftwood with a price tag. The marina had tried to reach him, sent letters, made calls, even hired someone to track him down. Nothing. And here's where it gets interesting, because when a boat sits unpaid and unclaimed long enough, the law starts to shift. The rules change. And suddenly that forgotten vessel isn't just marina property, it's an opportunity, but not for everyone. Only for the people who know how to navigate the process. And that's exactly what I did. Now, before I go any further, I need to make something crystal clear. What I'm about to explain isn't some pirate fantasy or backroom deal. This is real law. It's called Maritime Salvage and Abandonment Law, and it's been around longer than most of the boats sitting in your local harbor. But here's the problem. Most people don't know it exists, and the ones who do know about it don't know how to use it correctly. That's where the mistakes happen. That's where people lose time, money, and sometimes even face legal trouble because they skipped a step or misunderstood the process. So if you're watching this thinking you can just walk into a marina, slap a claim on any old boat, and sail off into the sunset, stop right there. It doesn't work that way. But if you're willing to learn the system, follow the steps, and put in the patience required, then yes, this can absolutely work. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did it, step by step. No fluff, no filler. Just the real process that took me from curious observer to legal owner of a boat I never bought. The first thing you need to understand is this. Abandoned boats are a massive problem for marinas. And I mean massive. Every year, thousands of vessels are left behind by owners who can't afford them anymore, who moved away, who lost interest, or who simply walked away when the bills piled up too high. These boats take up valuable space. They create liability issues. They cost the marina money in terms of storage, security, and maintenance. And in many cases, the marina would love nothing more than to see someone take that boat off their hands legally. But here's the thing, marinas can't just give boats away. There's a legal process, there are rules, and if they don't follow those rules, they open themselves up to lawsuits from the original owner or line holders. So they wait, they document, and they follow the legal steps required to declare a vessel officially abandoned. And that's where you come in. Because once a boat reaches that status, once the legal waiting period has passed and the proper notifications have been made, the door opens for someone to step in and claim it. But you can't just show up with a handshake and a smile. You need to know the law, you need to know your state's specific statutes, and you need to know how to file the right paperwork in the right order. Miss one step and the whole thing falls apart. So here's what I did. The first move wasn't to talk to the marina or touch the boat. It was to go straight to the source, the records. In most states, vessel registration and lien information is public. You can look up who owns a boat, whether there are any loans against it, and whether the registration is current. I started there. I pulled the hull identification number off the boat during one of my walks, wrote it down, took some photos from a distance, and then I went home and started searching. What I found confirmed my suspicions. The boat was registered to an individual whose last known address was 3 states away. The registration had expired, and there were no active liens on file. That was a green light, because if there had been a lien, a bank or finance company with a legal claim, this whole thing would have been a lot more complicated. Not impossible, but definitely harder. With that information in hand, I went to the marina office, and this is where a lot of people mess up. They go in aggressive. They go in assuming the marina's trying to hide something or rip them off. Big mistake. Marina staff deal with headaches every single day. Abandoned boats, unpaid fees, angry owners. The last thing they want is someone adding to that stress. So I kept it simple, professional. I told them I'd noticed the boat, asked if the owner was still around, and let them know I was interested in possibly helping resolve the situation if it was, in fact, abandoned. The dockmaster's eyes lit up, not because he wanted to make a quick buck, but because this boat had been a thorn in his side for over 2 years. He walked me through the timeline, showed me the records of unpaid fees, the letters they'd sent, the attempts they'd made to contact the owner, and then he said the magic words, "We've been trying to figure out what to do with it. If you're serious, there might be a way." That's when I learned about the lien sale process, and this is the heart of the whole thing. So pay close attention, because this is the exact legal pathway I used to claim that boat. When a marina or storage facility is owed money for unpaid fees, they can place what's called a possessory lien on the vessel. Essentially, they have a legal claim to the boat because it's sitting on their property and the owner owes them money. But having a lien doesn't mean they can just sell the boat tomorrow. They have to follow the law. And the law requires notification, lots of it. They have to notify the registered owner. They have to notify any lien holders on file. In some states, they even have to publish a notice in a local newspaper. The idea is to give the original owner every possible chance to come forward, pay what's owed, and reclaim their property. But if no one responds, if no one shows up, then the marina can move forward with a lien sale. And that's where someone like you or me can step in. Here's the beautiful part. In a lien sale, the vessel is often sold for the amount of unpaid fees. Not the market value, not what the boat's worth, just what's owed. In my case, the marina was owed around $4,000 in backslip fees. That was it. No bidding war, no inflated auction price. Just $4,000 to cover what the owner never paid. Now I know what you're thinking. $4,000 isn't free, and you're right. But for a 32-foot cruiser, even one that needed work, that's a steal. A boat like that in decent shape could easily sell for $20,000, $30,000, even $40,000. So yeah, and I had to pay. But I wasn't paying for the boat. I was paying off the marina's lien. And in return, I got legal title to the vessel. But here's the critical part. The part that trips people up. You can't just hand over cash and walk away with the keys. There's paperwork, lots of it, and if you don't file it correctly, you don't actually own the boat. You just own a very expensive pile of floating problems. After the lien sale was completed, I had to apply for a new title through the state's Department of Motor Vehicles or whatever agency handles vessel registration in your area. I had to provide proof of the lien sale, proof that the marina followed all legal notification requirements, proof that no one else had a valid claim. And I had to pay the title transfer fees. It took about 6 weeks for everything to process. And during that time, I didn't touch the boat. I didn't move it. I didn't start ripping things apart. Because until that title came back in my name, I didn't legally own it. And if something had gone wrong, if someone had come out of the woodwork with a claim, I would have been stuck. So I waited. And when that title finally arrived in the mail with my name on it, that's when I knew it was real. That's when I finally climbed aboard, popped the hatch, and started figuring out what I'd actually gotten myself into. Now, let's talk about the condition, because this is where reality hits hard. The boat wasn't pretty. 2 years of sitting in salt water with no maintenance had taken a toll. The engine was seized. The fuel system was clogged. The interior smelled like mildew and regret. The sails, if you could still call them that, were more holes than fabric, and the electronics, forget it. Everything was corroded or dead. But here's the thing, I knew this going in. I'd done my research. I'd looked at comparable boats. I knew what it would take to bring her back to life. And even with all the work ahead, the numbers still made sense. Because I wasn't starting from zero. I was starting from $4,000 plus sweat equity. I spent the next 4 months working on that boat almost every weekend. Pulled the engine, rebuilt the fuel system, scrubbed every inch of the interior, replaced the standing rigging, patched the sails, upgraded the electronics with used gear I found online. All in, I probably put another $6,000 into it. So my total investment was around 10 grand. And when I finally splashed her back in the water and took her out for the first sea trial, she handled like a dream. I later had her appraised, and the value came back at $32,000. That's a $22,000 gain. Not bad for a boat I found hiding under a tarp. But let me be clear about something. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. This isn't some easy hack where you walk into a marina and walk out with a free yacht. It takes time, it takes research, it takes patience, and it takes a willingness to deal with bureaucracy, paperwork, and a whole lot of scrubbing. If you're not ready for that, if you're looking for a shortcut, this isn't for you. But if you're someone who loves boats, who doesn't mind getting your hands dirty, and who's willing to follow the legal process step by step, then yes, this can absolutely work. And the opportunities are out there, more than you think. I've since identified 3 other potential ghost boats in marinas within 50 miles of where I live. I haven't claimed them yet, but I'm watching, I'm documenting. And when the time is right, I'll go through the same process again. So what does this mean for you? It means that if you've been dreaming about boat ownership, but thought it was out of reach financially, there might be another path. A path that doesn't involve taking on massive debt or draining your savings. A path that requires patience, knowledge, and a willingness to see opportunity where others see junk. But you have to know the rules. You have to know your state's specific abandonment and lien laws. You have to know how to verify ownership and check for liens. You have to know how to approach marinas professionally. And you have to know how to file the right paperwork at the right time. Skip any of those steps, and you're either going to waste your time or, worse, end up in legal trouble. Here's the mistake I promised I'd tell you about. The one that sinks most people who try this. They assume that just because a boat looks abandoned, it is abandoned. They don't verify. They don't check records. They don't confirm that the legal process has actually been followed. And then they either try to claim a boat that still has a legal owner, or they skip the title transfer process and think they can just start using the boat. Both of those moves will destroy you. Because even if the original owner hasn't been seen in years, if they still have legal title, they can come back at any time and reclaim the boat, or sue you for damages, or both. The legal system doesn't care that the boat looked abandoned. It cares about who holds the title, so do it right. Verify everything, follow every step. Get that title in your name before you do anything else. That's the golden rule. Now, I want to touch on something else, the emotional side of this. Because claiming an abandoned boat isn't just a financial transaction, it's inheriting someone else's dream, someone else's story. And sometimes that story is sad. The boat I claimed, I later found out, belonged to a man who'd bought it after retiring. He'd planned to sail the coast with his wife, but she got sick, really sick, and within a year she was gone. He couldn't bring himself to step on the boat again. Too many memories, too much pain, so he just walked away, left it there, stopped paying, stopped answering calls, and eventually it became mine. I didn't know that story when I started the process, but when I finally pieced it together through conversations with other marina folks, it hit me. This wasn't just a boat. It was the remnants of a dream that got shattered, and now I was the one bringing it back to life. There's something heavy about that, something that makes you want to honor it. So I did. I restored her with care. I gave her a new name. And the first place I sailed her was out past the breakwater at sunset, just like he probably imagined doing. I'd like to think, wherever he is, he'd be okay with that. The process I went through isn't unique to one marina or one state. It's based on legal frameworks that exist across the country, but the specifics vary. Some states require a longer waiting period before a vessel can be declared abandoned. Some require more extensive notification efforts. Some allow private individuals to file for abandoned vessel claims directly, while others require the sale to go through the marina or storage facility first. You have to know your local laws, and the best way to do that is to start with your state's Department of Motor Vehicles or Natural Resources Agency. Most of them have information online about vessel abandonment, lien sales, and title transfers. Read it, all of it, take notes, and if something's unclear, call them, ask questions. Make sure you understand the process before you start, because once you're in it, there's no going back. You're either going to see it through to the end, or you're going to waste a lot of time and possibly money. Another thing to consider is the marina's perspective. Remember, they're not in the business of selling boats. They're in the business of renting slips and providing services. An abandoned boat is a problem they want solved, but they also have to protect themselves legally. So when you approach them, make it clear that you understand the process. Show them you've done your homework. Let them know you're not looking for a handout or trying to pull a fast one. You're offering a solution. You're willing to pay the fees owed. You're willing to handle the paperwork. And you're willing to take the boat off their hands legally. That kind of approach gets results. It builds trust, and it makes the whole process smoother for everyone involved. I've talked to dockmaster friends since my experience, and they've all said the same thing. If someone came to them with a clear plan and a professional attitude, they'd absolutely work with them on a lien sale situation. But if someone came in acting entitled or shady, they'd shut it down immediately. Attitude matters. Let's talk about the risks. Because yes, there are risks. Even if you do everything right, you're still buying a boat that's been neglected. You don't know the full extent of the damage until you start digging. The engine might be toast, the hull might have blisters or soft spots, the electrical system might be a fire hazard, the rigging might be one gust of wind away from failure. You have to be prepared for the worst-case scenario. That means budgeting not just for the lien sale amount, but for repairs, potentially significant repairs, and it means being honest with yourself about your skills. If you're not comfortable doing your own engine work, you're going to need to hire a mechanic. If you don't know how to glass a hull, you're going to need a yard. Those costs add up fast. So before you jump in, sit down and do the math. Figure out what the boat might be worth after repairs. Subtract the lien sale cost. Subtract your estimated repair costs and see if there's still a profit margin or at least a value that makes sense for you. If the numbers don't work, walk away. There will be other boats, other opportunities. Don't get emotionally attached before you've done the financial analysis. One more thing I want to mention is documentation. Throughout this entire process, document everything. Every conversation you have with the marina, every email you send, every piece of paperwork you file, every photo you take of the boat. All of it. Because if something goes sideways, if someone challenges your claim, if the original owner suddenly reappears, you're going to need proof that you followed the legal process. Your documentation is your protection. It's your evidence that you did everything by the book. And in a legal dispute, that can make all the difference. I kept a 3-ring binder with everything related to the boat, copies of the lien sale notice, proof of payment, the title application, photos of the boat's condition, correspondence with the marina, everything. And while I never had to use it in court, just knowing I had it gave me peace of mind. So start that documentation process from day one. Before you even approach the marina, before you touch the boat, document it all. Now I know some of you are wondering about competition. If this process is legal and relatively straightforward, why isn't everyone doing it? Why aren't marinas flooded with people trying to claim abandoned boats? The answer is simple. Most people don't know this is possible, and the ones who do know are often intimidated by the legal process. They hear words like lien sale and title transfer and possessory claim, and they assume it's too complicated, too much red tape, too risky. So they never even try, and that's actually good news for you, because it means there's less competition. It means that if you're willing to put in the effort to learn the system, you're already ahead of 90% of the people out there. You're operating in a space that most people don't even know exists. And that's where opportunity lives, in the gaps, in the overlooked corners, in the forgotten slips at the back of the marina. Here's something else to keep in mind. This isn't just about getting a cheap boat. It's about learning a skill set, a way of thinking, a process that can be applied to other areas. Because once you understand how abandonment law works, once you've navigated a lien sale, once you've successfully transferred a title, you can do it again and again. You can turn it into a side business if you want. Buy abandoned boats, fix them up, sell them, rinse and repeat. I know people who do exactly that. They've built entire businesses around finding forgotten vessels, going through the legal process, restoring them, and flipping them for profit. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, but it's real, and it works. So even if your first boat is just for personal use, you're still building knowledge and experience that could pay off down the road. Let me also address the ethical side of this, because I know some people might be thinking, isn't this kind of like taking advantage of someone's misfortune? Isn't it wrong to profit off someone else's abandoned dream? And look, I get it. I had those same thoughts. But here's the reality. If I hadn't claimed that boat, it would have eventually been scrapped, hauled away and destroyed. The marina couldn't keep it indefinitely. The original owner had every opportunity to reclaim it and chose not to. The law was followed. Notifications were made. And in the end, the boat would have been lost either way. By stepping in, I gave it a second life. I put in the time, the money, the effort to restore it. And now it's back on the water, doing what boats are meant to do. So no, I don't think there's anything unethical about it. If anything, it's a form of conservation, taking something that was headed for the scrapyard and bringing it back. That's a good thing. And if you profit from it in the process, that's just the reward for your effort. As we're wrapping up here, I want to leave you with this. The boat market is shifting. We've all seen it. Prices are dropping, inventory is piling up, and more boats than ever are being abandoned as owners realize they can't keep up with the costs. That means the opportunities I'm talking about, they're only going to increase. There are going to be more ghost boats, more forgotten vessels, more chances for people who know the system to step in and claim something valuable, but only if you're prepared, only if you know the law, only if you're willing to do the work. So if this video has sparked something in you, if you're sitting there thinking maybe I could do this, then take the next step. Start researching your state's abandonment laws. Start visiting marinas. Start looking at the boats that are sitting untouched, covered in tarps, slowly sinking into obscurity. And start asking questions. Talk to dockmaster staff. Talk to other boaters. Build relationships. Because this whole process is as much about people as it is about paperwork. And the more you put yourself out there, the more opportunities will come your way. The boat I claimed, the one I found under that faded blue tarp, she's mine now, fully restored, legally titled, and every time I take her out, I think about the journey. Not just the sea miles, but the legal miles, the paperwork, the patience, the process, and I'm grateful I took the time to learn it, because now I know something most people don't. I know that ownership isn't always about having the biggest wallet. Sometimes it's about having the right knowledge, the right timing, and the willingness to see value where others see nothing. That's the real secret, and now you know it too. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to let this information sit in the back of your mind and fade away? Or are you going to take action? Are you going to start looking, start learning, start documenting? Because somewhere out there, in a marina not too far from where you are right now, there's probably a ghost boat waiting, a boat with a story, a boat with potential, a boat that could be yours if you know how to claim it, and now you do. So get out there, do the research, follow the process. And who knows, maybe the next video I make will feature your story, the story of how you found a forgotten vessel and brought it back to life. Until then, stay sharp, stay patient, and keep your eyes open. Because opportunity doesn't always look like opportunity. Sometimes it looks like a beat-up old boat covered in mildew sitting in the back corner of a forgotten slip. And that's exactly where the magic happens.